The Disney Live Action Remake. Ugh, we love to hate them, because we do. While it may be seen as simple family entertainment with no unneeded complexity added to it from the perspective of maybe the average normie viewer, the matter of the fact is, they're right. It is simple, and it is uncomplex, and that's bland. Oh, thank you, Disney. You've gifted me with a rehashed story you've already told me before in a far inferior manner that somehow is more legitimate this time because it's not in the form of animation? As if to insinuate that cinema is only real when it's in live action, but also worse? Cheers! Thanks, Disney. I'm glad we have been able to systematically prove to you that we would rather have movies that have been reheated in the microwave into a blended mush rather than enjoy a new taste of something with a sprinkling of imagination to it. Only the best request from the Studio of Wonder. But do you know what bothers me the most about Disney live action remakes? There's a lot of contenders, to be honest. It's not the fact we've been force-fed them for 10 years now with no real stop indicators in sight. It's not the fact that we can all but guarantee absolutely every animated Disney film of note will be getting an adaptation of some kind, apart from the ones we would probably really come to respect a revival from. It's not the fact that these movies perform spectacularly well almost every single time as a mindless audience always manifests around these products to consume and then chuck away like the creators that built it. It's not the fact that this does seem to be a pasting over of animation into a format that is more socially acceptable as a form of storytelling, somehow in 2025. And it's not the fact that Disney's antics have been so successful that it's influencing other studios to consider the same, thus marking us down for another 10 years of this schmuck most likely. No, even putting down my most cynical side, the part of this epidemic that really bothers me when I get down to thinking about it is how much potential there is in the format that's just being completely wasted. I can get over the fact that they are regurgitating titles, and I can get over the fact that it's recast with human actors. But with Disney bringing up all of their biggest IPs all at once over the same-ish period of time, upheld by a legacy of unrivaled creativity and imagination, it seems almost baffling to me that Disney have never really considered doing more with what is clearly a lot of work to reconstruct from the ground up again. This is the studio that is metaphorically reproducing worlds again with modern technologies and modern casts with recognizable faces welded together to these big IP brand characters, and to use them like a single-use consumable seems to be both wasteful and foolish, right? I have a Disney live-action pitch, one that sweeps across the board and can be applied to any and all past remakes we've seen beyond just, what if we made Jungle Book adapt the Jungle Book 2 DVD sequel? Although also, let's be honest, if Disney has some free storylines lingering around, makes a lot of sense to just adapt some pre-built sequels, right? Just make them better next time. Well, of course, it can't be quite that simple, as after all, these are the famous Disney straight-to-DVD sequels. They are specifically noted to being essentially, like, officially mandated knockoffs of Disney's own work. Huh, I guess maybe that's been the studio's MO for longer than I realized, It's here you'd usually find Robin Williams is the genie, not played by Robin Williams. So of course, we don't want exactly that, but clearly what we do need is more. But more done, I don't know, actually faithfully? And I don't mean faithfully in the manner of perfectly replicating shot by shot the work you've already done in animation, but in telling good, magical stories fresh off of a new page. What I want is originality in a live action remake. Is that too much to ask for? I want new territory being opened up in a world that we're forced to revisit. A new direction, an exploration outwards to show us far more than anything we've seen beforehand. With a leap of faith and a talented team at its core willing to pour their heart and soul into the work. Much like the source material of all the remakes we're being bombarded with. But how do you do it? You can't just look up to the biggest and most successful storytelling corporation in the world and expect them to be able to just create some of the best stories in the movie literature world. Again, that'd be absurd to have the highest expectations for the biggest dog in the race. How dare we ask for more from the company that stopped feeding us quality meals and craves only the microwave? And while I could slap together some weird speculative sequel idea for each individual remake, and its new fleshy world to be expanded, let's do things a little more the Disney way. Simplified, easy to understand, and takes maybe a little less effort. And what better way to lightning rod us into a direction than to look towards the live-action Stitch for some inspiration as the figurehead of the biggest missed opportunity. Yep, even though the movie's not even come out yet, I already have a complaint. Very impressive, I know, I'll take my award after the video. But you see, the basic gist of the idea I have for these already stale live-action remakes is one that we've already seen with Stitch's marketing. Or at least, the original Stitch marketing. I mean, just look at this.
The tradition.
Hey, that's not Simba.
Back in the early 2000s, the Disney filmography was a cinematic universe, before the times of cinematic universes. Now, I know that sounds bad to insinuate a MCU pitch in the decade of the 2020s, but look at how it's already been managed, both in the highs and the lows. In the lead up to the release of Lilo and Stitch, the original, we were blessed with the occasional excerpt of Stitch invading on the universes of past Disney classics, incorporating in his own sense of chaos that both highlighted some of Disney's most iconic moments, as well as enriched us to this yet-to-be-known character to be established before our very eyes. It was a fun and quirky stunt. And it worked so very well. Skip ahead 15 years later and we can see the same idea completely dropping the ball. This time in Wreck-It Ralph's corporate sequel, Ralph Breaks the Internet. Now we have everyone all smushed together and it just feels off, right? Like, this doesn't feel like a genuine expansion of any character's world and is very much just a quota. From a movie that is chock full of, hey, look at this, relatable cause recognizable, this is just another manifestation of it. And yet, this is probably the most iconic part of the movie. Probably from the marketing department going crazy with this one scene, since they do have the foresight to see at least something here being somewhat interesting in an otherwise shallow world. And so, skip forwards another 7 years, oh my god, somehow it's been 7 years already, and we're back to Stitch. We're back to the marketing department, and Stitch has an open goal of an opportunity. What if live-action Stitch invaded the Disney movies again? But not the original Disney movies, the live-action adaptation of those same Disney movies. Look, we have a live-action Beauty and the Beast, we have a live-action Aladdin, and even if it's a struggle to bring back such cast members as Will Smith and Emma Watson, I mean, sure, I can get the argument, but look, we even have The Lion King adapted, and that one literally, that does not need a returning human cast member. It's all animation, ironically, for a live-action remake. And yet, it doesn't exist. And it's not going to exist, probably, because Disney of the 2020s has done something a little bit differently. Gone are the days of the real early 2000s and probably the 2018 blip, and Marvel as a whole has apparently thrown Disney off on trying to touch on the whole idea, because Stitch made a motion towards the idea, somewhat. It was only The Lion King, and it was this. That is the same idea of Stitch being the centerpiece of the Circle of Life, but it's not in universe, despite it literally just being a CGI background change that is needed. And it's not even the arms of Rafiki doing so, it's Lilo, on the beach as part of their own bubble of a universe. Petrified to even insinuate extending ideas further, unless regulated to a PNG at most. A collab poster that doesn't even include a main character. This is the current state of Disney's marketing department. Their blasé and dynamic choices for the sake of a gag that both enriches and highlights both parties is long gone for a shallow shell of what it once was. As if reflecting the very remakes they're set to represent. And that's such a colossal shame. Because any hint of new storytelling told on top of these already set remake set pieces seems like a no-brainer for fan service, given that the end result is actually something of high quality. And I say that particular last addendum to the message because that next brings us to Mufasa the Lion King. Hey there, thank you for making it to the halfway mark of this video. Do come along and subscribe if you haven't already. We're gonna do essays now, like once a month, all through the year of 2025. Probably. I'm gonna push to try and make more content like this. It allows me to talk a little bit adjacent to certain topics like live action, so stick around if you're interested. Otherwise, let's get back to the second half of our Disney live action remake pitch. Also, hi, it's my face now. This could have been everything. The way I see it, this movie could well have been the experiment that leads into what I would have hoped to come next. Going into it, it already has some pitfalls for what I would hope to see. How typical that they made a sequel out of the only Disney remake that doesn't require a live-action cast to actually return. But a full month later, and we can see the full extent to how badly this movie flopped in a certain sense. Looking at the reviews, it has the classic remake statistics. An uncaring audience rates it around the 80s and 90s, whilst the critics hail it as a mid-50s at best. And I agree. If this is the state of modern Disney animation, doing an original story, and it literally exactly is, then this is just so poor. It's a case study, to be sure. It's not like they didn't try. I mean, Lin-Manuel Miranda was involved in this one, skipping out on Moana 2, but what we got instead was both movies' discography being forgettable. Or if you do remember the songs, it's for all the wrong reasons. Why the hell did the Mufasa songs experiment so strongly in the wrong direction? How did no one at Disney veto My Brother and Bye Bye? Like, this is child's play stuff. And it's not just the music. The actual writing is emblematic of how far Disney has trounced on their writers. Because this does not have the Disney seal of quality that upheld the company for all these decades. And it's not like those same writers aren't around now. They're probably just redispersed. Probably over to another company that's not been shilling it in for decades. Putting this up against the rest of the recent original plotlines from Disney, and it's clear to see that this is the real heart of the problem. The good writers at Disney are lost, and modern day Disney doesn't seem to have both the guts to push out the boundary when making yet another regurgitation, nor the talent anymore to make something grand and original if they tried. And that's staggering from literally the biggest studio in the business. So, can we meet in the middle? Please stop feeding us the cinematic equivalent of a bowl of beans reheated in the microwave, but also maybe please give us something to sink our teeth into? Well, here's a simplistic pitch for you, and one that can be leaned into as little or as much as you want. Simply put, it's collaborative, live-action Disney movies. I'm not asking for an Avengers-level movie with every Disney princess planted all together. No, stop that. Don't take the wrong idea again, studio. All I ask is for a second showing of a cast and world that's already been rebuilt, used again, and used together. Keep it small and simple. Which two characters are the most logically able to combine together for a sweet little duo story? It's like how we love the little Easter egg in Frozen that the cast of Tangled make a brief appearance. Logically sound, maybe just two princesses. Maybe Emma Watson's lost to time now that her movie's like 8 years old. But even something out of the latest stuff. Take Halle Bailey from the Little Mermaid remake and mix her with the cast of the Peter Pan live action remake. Yeah, remember that one? You know, they're both caught up in the sea. And even though there's plenty of arguments to be made about the real timeline of when every Disney movie takes place, would you really care that much? Is that where we draw the line? Because if the audience reviews have anything to say, it is clear that nobody else cares. Heck, mix any two characters together with a good enough excuse. Live-action Jungle Book Mowgli arrives in Africa and meets Timon and Pumbaa. Even as just a short, it can come off as a quirky little piece of fan service, expanding and exploring the worlds that these remakes felt were necessary to dig back up in the first place. Add in all the little homages and nudges towards the DVD sequel without counting them as canon, or upgrade upon the source material to tell a new story with a new, nuanced message, and you've essentially reinvented the wheel again by just making a more evolved wheel. And with each little collab idea, there is so much potential to stories in so many different directions. Not to mention the marketing. Bringing together the most iconic Disney main character castings and putting them together to talk about a project? Choosing to expand a beloved story with original creativity in a way that doesn't delete the efforts of past work? but only acts to enrich it more sounds like a win-win on all sides. We loved the Super Collab 100-year anniversary short. Now give us a cheeky live-action one and see the numbers fly. These are the modern faces of one department of Disney, so coming up with the idea of repurposing and expanding their uses further seems like a no-brainer. You don't even need the full casts to do it. If there's no Will Smith genie, make a story that has just Jasmine and Aladdin. The characters should be rich enough from the source material to be able to handle their moments solo anyway. Can the same really be said for modern original Disney work? Whether it's a full theatrical experience, two main characters put their heads together to overcome a new challenge, be it a mutual goal they both have, a villain that has wronged the both of them, or a core theme from the movies that can be adapted and expanded in conjunction with each other, whether it's a short of characters butting heads or pointing out parallels, highlighting a similar interest, or even really making educational child's content. I don't know, I could see it on Disney+. The Disney princesses teach you how to tie your shoelaces. Cuts to each character doing it their way, and then it just cuts to Aladdin asking the genie to magic swoosh it into reality. If not half the magical cast doing that anyway. Maybe that's a bit of a step too far. That's quite the price tag, bringing in these big names for a gig like that, and an even stranger approach on the marketing side of things. But the point is, what's the plan in 20 more years? Do we remake these movies again? But now in immersive VR? Or just another movie? Why are these animations being pasted over in flesh and then just as a one-time consumable? At a time where Disney's still on their microwave frenzy and demonstrably seeming creatively incompetent, it seems like a no-brainer to me that a comfortable middle ground is to explore the IP of Disney. Have the casted faces act as the new faces of this department of Disney. Bring them all back! Find uses for them, and use them and the source material they're mimicking as a stepping stone to tell new stories, new themes, and cashing in all the world building you're establishing as a brand on top of that. It's ironic for me to stand here and say, I hate the Disney live action remake. Now, hey, I want some more Disney live action remakes. But that's the thing. They're not remakes anymore. It's just fan service. It's taking these characters that we already love, giving them a look that's not as creative, sure, but then reinventing them in a way that could potentially satisfy one's inner child again. But I would love to see more Stitch doing something I can't predict, because it's a new story that I haven't seen before. With just a few references to his boiling temper or that one sandwich-making cousin of his. Add him causing a headache to any and all past IRL cast versions of other Disney characters and I'll have a whale of a time. Imagine just being a pest to only Aladdin for like an hour. Great. Or imagine a short of him causing mayhem to every Disney animal companion since the first live-action remakes. It acts as both a love letter, an original tale, a quick buck, and simple family entertainment, done much better than a re-microwave bowl of beans. The only real hurdle isn't even the budget of these big-name cast members. This is Disney. They can afford everything. They should. They are the monopoly. No, the real hurdle is having the ability to tell good stories, even with characters pre-built, which Disney clearly has difficulties with, somehow. And contracts. I don't even want to think about the contract details. Disney would have to me-angle some kind of deal to make this dream a reality. But given the current state that Disney is in, I don't think this compromise idea has any chance of coming to fruition, but boy is it a pitch I think about every now and again. For now though, my name's been Daz. If you had a pitch for how to improve or reuse Disney live action remakes, what would it be? I'd love to hear it. Thank you very much for reaching the end of this odd little essay. I'm gonna try and do more essays in the new year. It's a New Year's resolution type thing. A series I want to push more. And I shall see you all in a little bit.